Hello, I'm Ben Freiberger with Tuthill Corporation, here to demonstrate how to service your half-inch AOD pump. First thing you need to do is loosen the retaining rings. Using the service wrench provided, slide it onto the retaining ring, and using your outlet, loosen the retaining ring. You want to loosen it just enough so it spins freely. Slide it onto the retaining ring, making sure all the ribs are engaged. Making sure they both spin freely. Next, we will loosen the collars on the inlet and outlet assemblies. To do this, using the service wrench, slide up so the ribs are inside in order to loosen the collars. You want to make sure they slide up. If you try and hook it on, you might break all of the ribs on the collar. Once they are all loose, we can take the pump apart by hand. Loosening the outlet. Once it is loose, you want to be very careful because the seats, the O-rings, and the balls can fall out. I use the slide method and catch it with my fingers. Then the seats, O-rings, and balls will just fall out into your hand. You want to make sure you set these aside and not confuse them with your set of new seats, balls, and O-rings. The reason being, those O-rings are one-time use. Again, capturing it. They will fall out in your hand. Even though the O-ring looks okay, it has been deformed by using it once. Make sure you do not try and reuse those. Now, since the fluid caps are loose, you can spin the retaining ring and remove the fluid caps on both sides. In order to change the diaphragms, we need to loosen the diaphragm nuts. This can be done using 7/8 inch sockets. Just beginning to break them free, you will then be able to spin the nut off by hand. In order to get the other side out, push on the diaphragm rod and it can be removed. In order to remove the diaphragm, this diaphragm, you will need to hold on to the diaphragm rod. This can be done using a small pipe wrench and carefully grabbing the center of the rod. You want to avoid both sides because this is a sealing surface and this is a sealing surface. The center is not. So carefully use your wrench and spin the nut loose. If it would happen to slip, again, as long as we're in the center of the rod, we are okay. Removing the diaphragm, backup washer, and your rod. We want to take our old diaphragms, set them aside, and make sure to use new diaphragms. We use our rod, first stacking on the backup washer, making sure the blue backup diaphragm is toward the inside, and then the diaphragm nut. Spinning it on just hand tight for now. Then we want to push the diaphragm rod through the center body, making sure we're careful as we go past that first seal, just carefully working it until it slides right past and through to the other side. Now we will stack the backup washer, the blue diaphragm toward the inside, the outside, and then the diaphragm nut. Hand tighten both of those, and then we will use our torque wrench to get the final torque on them. Once they've been tightened to proper torque, we can now reassemble the fluid caps. When assembling the fluid caps, we want to make sure the key on the top of the fluid cap goes into the spot for the key on the top of the center body. You should be able to feel it lock into place. Then, carefully making sure the retaining ring starts on both sides, we can start it. If the fluid cap has happened to fall out of place, it can be realigned, locked into place, and then tighten the retaining ring. We will repeat this for the other side, paying close attention to the key on the top of the fluid cap. Holding it in place until it is hand tight. Now, putting in the new balls and seats, we want to be extra careful. Ball in first. The new seats, we want to make sure this chamfer is toward the outside so the O-ring can sit in that groove. Again, ball first, the seat, the side with the chamfer is where your O-ring goes. Holding the O-ring in place, sliding it onto the inlet, starting one side, making sure both sides of the helix start before tightening down the other. Hand tight for now, and then we will repeat on the outlet. Ball goes in first, the seat with the chamfer so that the new O-ring fits right in. Ball, the seat, and the chamfer so the O-ring fits. It should just be above level. Hold it in place or else they easily fall out. Hold it in place and slide it on. Start one side, start the other, tighten them down to hand tight. Then, using the service wrench provided and a torque wrench, tighten all collars to their proper torque. Again, sliding up on those ribs so we do not break them and can achieve the proper torque. Now the last thing to do is to tighten the large retaining rings. When tightening the large retaining rings, it is best to support your outlet manifold in order to get the torque necessary for a proper seal.